Hi YouTube, I'm Mrs. Dr. Lupo.
And I'm Sam, and today is October 1st for us, and we're going to be talking about spooky stories.
I personally hate scary stories, so we're gonna read some and see how scary they actually are. If you want to catch us live, the whole entire month of October is gonna be spooky season, 8:30 a.m. Central on Twitch.
Or if you just want more stuff and content over here, make sure you like and subscribe. Ooh. Yes.
So today is about ghost stories.
I'm excited.
Do you believe in ghosts?
I wouldn't say I believe in ghosts per se, but I do believe in like spirits and demons, kind of thing. So it's more like an angels and demons kind of thing. More of my faith.
This whole entire month is going to be really interesting because I don't believe in any of this. So I'm going to be like the one that's over here that's just like, how can we explain this? I've never had like an experience where I even could potentially believe in ghosts. We've already talked plenty of times that I'm atheist, so I don't believe in spirits or afterlife or anything like that. So this should be interesting. I wish I did though. Just like not believe like spirits, but I wish I did believe in ghosts and all that kind of stuff because I don't know. I just feel like sometimes that's fun. Is there a guest today? No, it's just us.
Just the Sams and spooks.
Just us.
Have you never had like a paranormal moment or like a moment where you're just like, what was that?
I was able to explain everything.
Okay, I guess that makes sense.
That's what's so hard is like even when I was going through like trying to figure out if I believed in God or not, like never had any movement or feeling or kind of thing. So I don't know if my brain just can't. Not the knocking in this song. Yeah, we got spooky music and there's
I can't hear it.
Yeah. Oh, it's just like I can barely hear it.
I'm gonna turn on my own like spooky music in the background just so I can get in the mood too.
Have you ever experienced a paranormal event?
I don't know if it's paranormal or what it was, but my first experience that I remember was when I was in middle school and I had this like the big boombox kind of CD tape players. And I had it in the corner of my room, and I was on the opposite side of my room reading, and it turned on, and I was just like staring at it, and then it turned off, and I kind of, like whenever you're scared, you kind of freeze for a second, you're just staring at something, and then it turned on again, and then it turned off again, and then it never did it again, but I was like, the heck? So that's the first like really odd experience that I had, because it wasn't like a circuit, because it's never happened again since then for that. And then another one, I actually have a story.
Okay.
So when I was in high school, there's this road in Louisiana called Ellerbee Road, and it has an elementary school, which has a very, very, very dark history behind it. It was back when times where segregation was really big, so it was like a really wealthy white school. And evidently this is the story, and I don't know if it is stemmed off of people trying to make it racist, but the story is that there was a janitor and he was black, and he had all the children in an auditorium, like they were having an assembly, and he started a fire and all the doors were locked, and all of the children died in that fire. And that is actually true. We just don't know like the full cause of it, but people said that it was the janitor because he lived. And so I think that is just the South being the South. However, it is really sad because that was a true story where the kids all burned in the gymnasium. And so a big thing that people do is they go and visit the school. And I visited the school one night in October, of course. When else would you want to go? And the friends that I was with, like we had just flashlights and really nothing else. Cell phones weren't too big of a thing yet. Maybe one or two people had their little Nokias. So we were there and just walking around, and we split up. Don't ever split up, by the way. Anyway, we split up. And me and one of my guy friends, we went down one hallway, and there was one classroom off to our right that it had like there were like these really moldy kind of books everywhere. It was kind of gross. And we wanted to go in and just kind of see like what kind of books that they had. And as we're like looking for a few minutes, he kind of like freaks out. Like he doesn't like wail kind of scream, but he like kind of makes a really loud like ah. And I look at him like, what's wrong? And he said that somebody scratched his back. And then it got really cold, and I did feel that, and I was like, oh no, I don't like this anymore. So we ran out, and he after we lifted up his shirt, he had a red mark. I don't know if he hit something, like I can't prove it, but he had a scratch. And we were just like, is this school really haunted or what? So that was a very odd experience. And I don't know if he was lying and just didn't want to say he ran into something and looked like a dummy, but that's all I know to go off of for that. So that was really scary. And then we ran off the property because the guy who owns the property started shooting his gun in the air. He does that to scare kids away, like us.
Oh gosh.
Because it's illegal to be on the
That
property.
would scare me more than anything
Yeah,
scratching my
we
back.
heard the gun, we ran. But yeah.
So I don't have any paranormal experiences, but I did just quickly look up haunted places in Nebraska, and there's two in Omaha. Both I knew about, but one I didn't know the full extent of it. So I'm going to tell you the two scary things in Omaha as my ghost story, and then we'll get into our actual thing. So there's a place here called Hummel Park, and it's a 202-acre park. So it's huge. You never see the whole entire thing. There's like disc golf and all that kind of stuff, and parks and pathways, everything. It says for decades the park has been stained with sinister stories, some paranormal terrors, and some very real tragedies. If you visit the park late at night, you might see an otherworldly band of albino farmers, ghostly apparitions creeping between the trees, all of which seem to slant just slightly to one side, and spray-painted pentagrams on park property. Additionally, the very old rickety staircase in the park is nicknamed the Stairway to Hell, and somehow always seems to have more steps to count going up than going down. I don't know. I've been there. I've never had anything that I. But the other one is Mystery Manor, and it is a haunted house here, and it is probably one of the best haunted houses. I've never been, but I've seen pictures and videos. Everybody goes there. But the story that goes that the former owner of the property, William Hall, lost his fortune in the stock market crash of 1929. He eventually spiraled into insanity, reportedly killing his wife Greta and burying her in the yard. 1 week later, Greta's brother John came looking for revenge and killed William with an axe. But the next night, coincidentally October 31st, John was found next to William's gravesite with an axe embedded in his head. Some believe it was William's ghost who killed John, and that his ghost returns to the manor to roam the halls every October. So they turn it into like this really high end. It's like $30 or something to get into this haunted house because they do such a great job. But it is an actual house that they have that's supposedly. So
Have you ever messed with a Ouija board?
Yes.
Do you have like an experience or anything that you were like, that's weird?
No Bloody Marys, no what's the light as a feather, stiff as a board. None of that.
So I messed with one with a bunch of my military wife girlfriends literally the night before one of them moved away. So we went to their house because they weren't going to live there anymore. And so it was just all the girls, like the guys were hanging out and the girls were hanging out. And I don't know why we decided to do a Ouija board. And me being who I am wanted nothing to do with it. So I just kind of wanted to sit in the room. And then my my friends wanted to ask some questions about me to the Ouija board. Um, and so they asked like, or first they asked, "Who are you?" Of course, whoever you're speaking to. And it said, I don't remember what it said, but then it was like, "Do you know any of us?" And it said yes. And they said, "Who?" And it wrote John, which is my dad's name, and nobody else knows a John. And I was like, John. And then they asked, is their daughter in this room? And it said yes. And I was like, nah, yeah, I'm gonna have to back up. And then we got really nothing else after that. But they started asking like just funny questions like how many kids are we gonna have and who's gonna get a divorce, and I don't know why we asked these questions, but the one thing that I will never forget about mine that it said, because we asked how many kids I'm gonna have and it said 6. So far I've had 5 and I kind of want one more. And like it's in my head, like, no, don't have another one because I don't want to prove the Ouija board right. But I'm literally on 5 right now out of the 6. I'm just like, wait, that makes me so nervous.
Oh my
Because then
gosh.
I'm like, that'll be real. And then it started doing. So there's, if you look up how to properly use a Ouija board or whatever, and I'm sure it's written by like believers and stuff, because there are things that they tell you to keep an eye out for, like certain shapes that the what's the thing called that moves? I can't think of the name of it.
Little triangle.
Yeah, the little triangle. The way that it moves could indicate that it's a demon like trying to get out or whatever. So it's like if it starts going from A B C D E F G and like kind of going down the lines, or if it starts doing a figure 8. And we didn't notice it at first, but it started doing a figure 8. And that, I guess that it's a demon called Zoe, I believe is what it goes by. And so we had to dispose of it properly, and which is like I don't know, break it up and burn it and like holy water, I don't know. And then we buried it. We left it at that. So I've had nothing else bad happen. Like that was fine. But that was my experience. And I'm just like, I'm on 5, Sam. And I think about it all the time. Anytime I think about having a baby, I'm like, let it be twins. Like, just double it, please. Let's skip the 6.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
We used to go and play in the graveyard and stuff like that. And I have this thing where I don't like walking in front of, Like I like to walk in rows and columns in a graveyard. Mm-hmm. I don't know why. It's not that I like think that some hand is gonna come out and grab me.
It's usually like a respect thing.
Yeah, I just feel weird in general walking around on top of graves.
Yeah.
And so, but we used to always like go play hide and seek in graveyards and stuff like that, and flashlight tag, and I mean, it's the best place because there's so many places to hide. Mm-hmm. It was never a thing. Never. So weird. So what I did is I found a link of the 11 scariest ghost stories that could be found on Reddit. And this was just recently written.
Oh.
This year, like in August.
Perfect.
So, but it might be pulling from various ones. And who knows if they're really the scariest. You can go on Reddit and you can get lost forever finding spooky stories. But I felt like this was a good selection. Okay. I've only read a few just to make sure that they're actually like, weird or creepy or scary. And we are going to alternate reading them. And then we're going to discuss them at the very end as far as like, we can talk about them in between and stuff, but which ones do we think are plausible? How can we explain other ones? Are they actually that scary? Yada, yada, yada. So I'm going to start with the first one. Should I read the titles? Mm-hmm. I feel like that kind of gives it away, but maybe not.
No, don't.
I don't think so.
Gives it away.
Okay. Are we ready? Is everybody all,
You bundled up?
All ready to go? I wore cozy so I can just snuggle. All right. I was camping with my husband and his family at a small remote lake in New Mexico. There were about 10 people in our group and another group of 6 people in the next campsite. It was nighttime, and both groups were doing typical activities, making s'mores, having a few drinks, and telling stories, when we all heard what sounded like a little girl yelling out for help. Neither group had children with them, but we were all positive we were hearing a little girl and decided to search the area we heard the noises from together. There was a field behind our campsites, and we saw a very tall, pure white figure standing maybe 100 feet away from us in the field, making the noises. We all agreed this thing looked maybe 6 feet tall, skinny, and white as can be. We made our way closer to investigate, but whatever it was that we saw started backing off as we got closer, and it disappeared into the trees. All night we continued to hear a little girl calling for help as we tried to sleep. That reminds me of like Slenderman type.
Yeah, I was gonna say 6 feet. That sounds like Slenderman. All right.
Wait for the next one.
Yeah, I'm scrolling to it. Hang on. Okay. Not reading the title, right?
No, and I'm not.
Okay.
I'm not going to read along with you because I want to just listen to you.
All right, here we go. I'm a psychiatric nurse, and early in my career, I worked at a residential mental health facility. One of our residents was an elective mute, which means that he couldn't talk, but there were no medical reasons as to why. He had spoken earlier in his life, and in fact, seemed quite normal back then, with the exception of being close to 7 feet tall. He'd been raised in the deep south and joined the military when he was 19, but one night he vanished. He was declared AWOL, and eventually he was declared missing and dead. 10 years later, a 7-foot-tall man walked into a VA hospital emergency room in part of the Midwest and said to the receptionist, "My name is Marianne Duchesnay," not the real name, okay, "and I've been dead for 10 years. Those were the last words he ever spoke. He was covered in dust, and he was wearing the same clothes he'd been reported to be wearing the night he vanished. His social security number had not been used, and he had no identification on his person. However, they were able to identify him, I guess via fingerprints. The family was notified, but they said they had already grieved their lost man, and that whomever was claiming to be him simply could not be. They demanded not to be contacted again. Marion paced all day, every day, moving his mouth that looked like talking or muttering, but no sound came out. He had an unnerving habit of throwing his head back with his mouth wide open, as if he were laughing heartily, but not even a breath could be heard. If I talked to him, he appeared to listen, periodically throwing his head back in that laughter-mimicking way of his. Various medications were tried, but they did not affect him either positively or negatively. Occupational therapy did nothing because Marion would just grin, and unless told to stay put, he'd get up and start pacing again. On my last day at that job, the last thing I saw was Marion, pacing in the parking lot, throwing his head back to laugh. Later, I wondered if all along I'd been dealing with a ghost. All these years later, I still don't know. Ooh, that would give me the heebie-jeebies.
I don't know if I could
How
work in like a psych
family?
ward,
Didn't even want a DNA or anything.
right?
A DNA test. Whew.
I was driving across country with my mom and sister when I was 16. My sister was 20. It was late, but we were well rested still. Wait, I can't talk. It was late, but we were well rested still and alert. We were driving along an interstate and needed gas and a bathroom break, so we stopped at the only rest stop in 200 miles. There was a van full of teenagers on a road trip at the gas station, as well as a small gray car parked at the pump in front of us with 2 young men standing still outside of it. When we got there, everything felt wrong. We'd been on the road for days and seen many rest stops at night, and I'd never been afraid until then. My mom and sister went inside and I stayed in the car. I heard the teenagers say they were creeped out and couldn't get the pump to work, and they left in a hurry. I was watching the car in front of us, and the 2 men had not moved at all, not an inch. They weren't talking, they weren't on phones, they were just standing there, still as stone. My sister and mom came running back out to the car, and when they got in, the 2 men slowly turned to look at us while not moving or pivoting the rest of their bodies. I swear to fucking shit, we all saw the same thing. They had eyes dark as pitch and empty, truly empty, not black, not reflecting any light at all, just a void. We spat out of there and we didn't stop until we were in the next city. The worst thing about the entire experience, we couldn't find the place on any map. We knew exactly which spot on the interstate to look. We couldn't find it on Google Maps or any paper map we had. We even asked locals about the creepy gas station out on that stretch of road and got only confused looks. Traveled on the interstate since, and there is no rest stop.
Absolutely not. Especially, what is it, 3 people that saw that?
Right?
Ah. Oh.
Weird.
Oh, no.
I can't even begin to explain that one.
Yeah. I don't know. If I had 3 people that all believed the same thing at the same time.
Yeah, if you can find multiple people that, like, have the same exact situation, like saw the same thing, not like, oh, I could have maybe, then that's when you start to get me to consider changing my mind.
Especially if it's the people that are like with me experiencing it. I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah.
Ooh, next one. We were driving my friend's really old beat up Subaru through a massive graveyard. We stopped and walked down a hill and came across a little pond. There was someone sitting on a rock on the other side of the pond. The figure was all black, and we couldn't make out any features other than the fact that it looked like a man who was wearing some old style top hat. We stupidly waved and shouted, "Hi!" He didn't show any acknowledgement and continued sitting on the rock. All of a sudden, he jumped to his feet, started running to us on the water, and then vanished in thin air. About halfway on the pond, my friends and I screamed and ran back to the car. The car wouldn't start, and we heard something banging on the back of the car. It wasn't a constant bang, but every few seconds or so we'd hear it. Nobody was outside from what we could see in the dark, but something was making a noise on the car. I opened my phone and started dialing my mom to come give us a boost, but I had no service. None of us had any cell service. The next 30 minutes were spent trying to get her car started. No banging was heard afterwards, but we felt this heavy pressure around us. Finally, the car started and she hit the pedal to the metal. We sped out of the graveyard so fast, immediately crossing the gates, all of our phones regained cell service. One thing I know for certain is that someone or something was out there, and it was not an animal or human. Once again, that's several people saying it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the ones where multiple people are part of it, like, it feels more believable than, hearsay of like, oh, I thought I saw a flash or something like that.
I was by myself.
Yeah, exactly. I love, in between these, they have like tweets and stuff like that about Reddit ghost stories, and the one below yours is very skeptical of people IRL, yet so quick to believe Reddit ghost stories.
Big true.
When I was 37, I went to my high school reunion. I flew into the nearest airport and rented a car. Distance was about 35 miles through a very rural and almost abandoned part of the country. About 3 miles outside of town, I see someone on the side of the road flagging me down. It turned out that it was one of the guys I had attended school with. Jim, not his name, gets in the car and we start talking. I had not seen him in 20 years, but he still looked the same, maybe a little older. We get to town and I ask him if he wants to come to the BFW and have a drink. He says, no, just take me home. Jim's parents had lived only a few blocks from my grandmother's house, and I turned in that direction, but he said to take him to the outskirts of town. There was a mobile home park out there, and I figured that's just where he lived. When we reached the end of the turn, he said, just drop me off here. It's good to see you again, and he walks off into the night. I go to the BFW, met some of my old classmates. We start to talk. As we were talking about who was coming to the reunion, I mentioned that I had just picked up Jim 3 miles east of town and had dropped him off. Everyone gets quiet. The guy singing karaoke stops and lays down the mic. My cousin goes white as a new t-shirt. Barb, Jim died on that curve 8 years ago. Rolled his car. We were all at his funeral, I was told. I started to feel really dizzy, and I went out to the car to take some deep breaths. There on the seat is the local newspaper printed 8 years previous containing Jim's obituary. I still have the paper.
I'd want to see a picture of that.
Yeah.
And hear like the other people say it as well.
Yeah.
Dang. Ooh. All right. This one's a little shorty. After we moved into our home, we were told a woman had died there at the hands of her abusive husband. She hated men. My dad would wake up with scratches all over himself, and whenever my brother was mean to my sister or I, he would have scratches on him as well. One day, my brother hurt our sister. He hit her with something. When he woke up later that night, he had a horrible bloody nose. The day we moved out, my brother accidentally broke his twin's arm trying out a wrestling move. He swears that he would have died that night if it wasn't our last in the house. That just sounds like Normal stuff.
It sounds like the start of any of those scary movies.
Yeah, like it just sounds like you're trying to make it seem like it's just the ghost.
Yeah.
Bloody noses can happen from your nervous system, like acting up. So if you're like nervous or scared or frustrated or things, like it can act up.
Yeah.
It's like you could have just had a rough night.
I was standing in my parents' room talking to my very sick dad at the time. He was dying of stage 4 esophageal. There we go.
Esophageal.
Yeah, there we go. Cancer. I got the feeling something was behind me. I looked towards the doorway to the living room, and something about 4'6" and fully black is peeking around the corner with its hands on the doorframe. I ran towards it, and it slipped back around the door. When I got outside the doorway, there was nothing. My dad was completely confused when I stepped back inside the room. When I tell him, people who stayed at my house in my dad's final days claim to have seen it. Mom saw the figure on multiple occasions in multiple places until he passed away. We haven't seen it since. I don't know what possesses me to binge read Reddit true life ghost stories about twice a year, when each place I live always have some kind of resident spirit.
Oh, I think that was a tweet that's not.
Oh, there we go.
In the
Okay.
same format.
I was like, wait a second. Anyways.
Far left. All right. After my parents divorced when I was a teenager, I lived with my mother. I experienced lots of paranormal happenings. Several times when I was reading in my bed, the room would start to feel really icy. Next, it would feel as if something or somebody that hated me was staring at me. When I got that feeling, I would leave the room and come back an hour later. Sometimes during the day, I would see a shadow figure sneaking along my bedroom walls. Something in the flat was pretending to be my dog. I went into my room and heard a deep growl from under the bed. My dog was incapable of making a noise that deep. It sounded like either a really big dog or a man doing his best dog impersonation. Other times, my dog would whimper and pace in the room next to mine, but wouldn't come when called, as if he was afraid of something in the hallway. When I moved in with my father, the paranormal activity stopped. I don't want to hear any like throaty noises that can't come from anything in my house. Absolutely not.
Shortly after college, I got married. We immediately moved into a basement apartment because that's all that was available within our budget. This place had a poltergeist, and my wife was terrified. Whatever resided there with us made it clear it wanted to live alone. Dishes, glasses, and other items would fly off the shelf. My wife was hit several times. There was always an ominous feeling like we were being watched. At night, when we walked through the apartment in the dark, there would be insanely bright flashes of light that would illuminate the entire room. One night while we were going to bed, as soon as my wife and I walked into the bedroom, we heard a voice from nowhere say, my name, move. My wife looked at me. I looked at her. I said loudly, "You've got it, bud." We moved out 2 days later and stayed with family. The old lady who owned the place died a few months later, and the house was torn down. It is still an empty lot to this day, nothing but grass and a tree. I still drive by it every now and again.
I don't know, if I'm getting hit with stuff, then I'm definitely concerned.
Yeah.
Poltergeist, those silly little buggers. My dad used to work as a corrections officer at a rural prison. He drove the perimeter of the property for his entire shift, where he would check empty buildings for runaway inmates. It was generally a boring job. One night, my dad was parked on a hill reading a magazine when he started to feel a thumping in his body. He described it as the feeling you get when speakers are playing a song with really heavy bass. He put the magazine down and checked his rearview mirror where he saw someone outside the truck. He grabbed his pistol and jumped out of the truck with his weapon drawn. Outside the truck, he realized it was a procession of Native Americans walking through the truck and directly through his seat, only to disappear at the exact spot he was sitting. He said it was clear they were ghosts because many of them appeared injured. This went on for a few seconds, and then the whole procession disappeared. He called the other perimeter guy on his walkie to try to explain, and the other guy almost immediately stopped communicating. Turns out the other guy had seen this happen before but didn't believe in ghosts, so he wouldn't talk about it. Oh, yikes. And then we have one more, I think.
Yep. I worked as a forensic nurse in the hospital's lockup unit. We had one older lady who swore she was being haunted and abused by a demon she would call Tiberius. So many crazy things happened while she was on the unit. We'd go into the room, do normal care, leave, and seconds later she'd start screaming bloody murder. We'd run into the room to find her looking like she'd been in a fight with a boxing champ. Bloody lip, black eye, markings all over her body. No one ever saw her doing this stuff to herself. Things would get moved around the room by themselves. At one point, she was in a protective restraints because the doctor thought she was hurting herself. There was no way she could have moved or done anything to herself while in these restraints, but new marks would always appear, or her tray or cart would be across the room. The room was secure, so there was no way someone else was doing this. When we asked her questions, she'd just say it was Tiberius. After she was discharged, we always had trouble with that room. There was going to be a rapid response or code. It happened in that room. One night, a guard reported lights blinking on and off. It was that room.
I'd want to spend a night in that room.
Yeah? What's the hotel that you can stay in that's like super haunted?
I mean, there's several. There's the Cecil Hotel. There's the Queen. Is it the Queen Mary? There's a ship.
That's a boat.
Yeah, but you can stay in like I think one of the most haunted rooms are in there.
In the east.
I don't know. There's a lot. I don't know. I love the idea of staying in really haunted places. I've never had the opportunity to. Well, I mean, I've been in the Queen Mary, but that's about it.
So there's the Stanley. That's the inspiration for The Shining. I think that's maybe that was the one I'm thinking. I watched the documentary about the Cecil Hotel.
Yeah. Yeah, I was there the other day.
I saw like your picture of it, and I was like...
I didn't realize where I was until I was like, I don't want to be here, because that's also in a very just bad area.
Yeah.
But seeing that was kind of surreal. It's like, I know I've lived close to you my whole life, but I never thought that I'd actually see the hotel. So that was odd. I still don't understand that story. What do you like? If y'all have you heard of the Lisa Lamb story? I want to know what you think of that.
I feel like she was detoxing from her meds.
Maybe.
And so, I mean, and that put her, or either she was detoxing from them, she just didn't have them, because they said that she had stopped taking her meds. She had talked to her family and said that she was feeling really good, so she stopped taking her medicine. And her medicine was for like schizophrenia and anxiety and stuff like that.
Depression and everything, yeah.
Yeah, I think she just had a panic attack and was just imagining things. Ran upstairs, went up to the roof, went up to the water tank because she thought she was being chased by something.
But didn't they say it was locked? Like somebody had to open it.
The guy, the maintenance guy, when he went and searched the roof, he said that he saw that it was open and he just closed it, but he didn't think anything of it. He didn't think about looking inside it or anything like that. So like the lid was like shifted over, or the lid was open or something like that. So that's what I think.
All these unsolved stories. I hate unsolved stories so much because I'm somebody who needs an ending. Like I need a close. And so just hearing these things, I'm like, just figure it out. Give me the right answer.
I love listening and watching stories like that, like documentaries and everything about it. I find them highly entertaining, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't know. So going through these, which one do you think is the most realistic?
I honestly think the gas station one. In a weird way, I just because there's so many people involved in that, but also maybe even the Death March one with the Native Americans, because there's a lot of stories like that. So I don't know. What about you?
The rest stop one really intrigues me, and the Walking Dead one, the guy that came back after 10 years.
Oh yeah, that one's interesting.
That one feels the most realistic to me.
Yeah.
Otherwise, but the one I'm most intrigued about is the one with Jim and the high school reunion. That one I'm like, how do you not know? Like,
Mm-hmm.
was she like overly stressed and just thinking about her classmates and just kind of thought about that, and she imagined it because she was tired and stressed and she was driving at night and
Yeah, but the fact that the newspaper was there, unless like she blanked that she found the newspaper and was reading it and then maybe went through like a
yeah.
mental break kind of thing. I don't know. There's always so many theories, but you have to go off of what the information and that's the hard part.
Yeah. Do you think you can explain any of these to be plausible? Because I can never think of the actual word.
I mean the one that's the where the kid like had a bloody nose and then his arm broke and
Yeah.
there's really nothing to that except those are just things that can happen. The amount of times that I've been hurt in my own house, I'm not gonna blame it on a ghost.
Let's see.
Like
So
I did that.
starting at the top was the campsite one with the little girl in the field, with like with the Slenderman, basically in the field that they thought was a little girl. That could easily be animals.
Hmm.
It could be light reflection from the moon to make it something seem like it's there, and just
Hmm.
like the angle that you're at with it, and then if you're moving, then obviously it's gonna seem like it's moving.
Hmm.
So that
Yeah.
one I don't find super realistic.
And then of course
The
there's the
huh?
psychiatric ward.
Yeah, that one
I
that one
feel
I
like that
could
one can be true.
that one could totally be true. There totally could be a person that goes AWOL and then they just show back up, right? Like, you hear all the stories
Hmm.
about I lived in the forest for 5 years and because I got lost and then I randomly stumbled
Yeah.
upon a road and kind of thing. So I totally think that is that he just went he mentally was just not well.
Yeah, yeah, being an elective mute, like he's obviously been through like some kind of psychiatric break for
Yeah.
for 10 years missing and then coming back. So it's gosh. Yeah, I just don't understand the family. Like if I'm getting told that my husband who's been gone for 10 years, like we didn't know what happened to him, but we just, assumed dead at this point.
Yeah.
But I get a call and I'm like, can I see him? Can we do like a test? Things
Yeah,
like
because
that. I
obviously
would
they
want
didn't
that
bury
info.
anybody.
Yeah, like I would want that information. I don't understand the family just being like, yeah, nah. We already mourned, so if it's him, tough luck. Like what?
Right. That one was
That's
kind of
weird to
sad.
me. And then yeah,
The
the
rest
rest
stop
stop.
one. I don't know if I could explain that one.
I don't either, unless there's three people having some kind of psychiatric break.
Yeah, like I don't know if a mom and a 16-year-old and a 20-year-old were all breaking
Mhm.
down or like doing drugs at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, yo, holla at ya. But yeah, I mean, as a mom, I don't think that I would want to encourage terrifying my child.
Yeah.
So I just can't see a mom being like, "Oh yeah, no, it's really happening," and it didn't
Yeah.
actually happen. So I don't know. That one's a little creepy. Um,
The graveyard one.
yeah, or the thing ran at you. Once again, that's a lot of people saying the same thing.
And no cell
Mm.
service.
Did they say that they had cell service before that though? No, it didn't look
They
like it.
didn't say whether or not they had cell service. They just said that
Hmm.
when they got to the car that they didn't have cell service until they left the graveyard.
I mean, yeah, that's a little freaky,
Yeah.
but I don't know.
But I mean, it could just be a dead spot. Like there's dead spots all over town.
There's dead
That
spots in
you,
my house.
that I don't believe that one too much.
I don't either.
I believe that the car, like I believe that if you think you see something, you can persuade other people that they saw it too, and then your adrenaline is going so fast that you can then
Mhm.
start to imagine because
The
you're like,
banging
oh
noise
my
and
gosh,
stuff.
if that was a man, is he going to come do XYZ? Or is it going to be ABC or 1, 2, 3? And now your brain is thinking all these things. So then any little sound, smell, sight that you have then all of a sudden you're like, wait a second, it could be that. Oh my gosh, now we're going down path A. And now what's in you start creating all these scenarios.
Ugh.
Okay, what about we talked about Jim and the reunion.
Yeah, I still think that if the newspaper was there, I assume that she picked it up and forgot and like may have had like a moment.
Or maybe like her mom put it in there or something like that because she's just like, hey, you're going to your reunion, here's something.
You should know this.
Yeah, kind of thing. I'm not sure.
Gosh, that's why I want to see that newspaper, and I'd like to hear the stories from others.
Yeah.
That would make me believe it a little more.
We already said that the scratches and bloody nose one.
Yeah.
What about when the dad was dying of cancer and they saw the little black figure?
I don't know, honestly.
I think shadows and stress.
Because I feel like you can make yourself see things if you're under enough stress.
I mean, when I'm home alone and Ben's traveling and Charlie's asleep, I pull down all of the blinds and I lock all the doors because I know me. I know if I'm sitting there and I see the tree move outside, I think somebody's out there.
Yeah, same.
So
I'm literally on the second story and I see a shadow at my window and I'm like, who's trying to break it? So,
yeah, I totally think it's just that your stress heightens your senses. So I think that's what a lot of this is. What about the parents' divorce and the icy feeling?
I don't know. So as somebody who does believe that the coldness can indicate something, especially if it's not a normal area, that one can be kind of true to me, because in my belief, demons can make noises that are like gurgling and things like that. So I think that could have been a demon, girl. You better get out of there. So I don't know.
What about the poltergeist that told them to move and was throwing stuff? I feel like if I'm in the kitchen and all of a sudden my cabinet flies open and a glass comes shooting out, yes, something is doing that. Right?
Yeah.
Like there's no question with that. That's what I think it would need to take to have me change my mind.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's always funny though, because it's like it's a husband and a wife. And I don't think Eric would encourage me. He'd be like, yeah, totally. He'd be like, Sam, shut up. Nothing happened. And vice versa. So
I think like if I'm sitting there and doing dishes and I hear something in the cabinet, maybe a glass fell over, I don't know, but even then maybe the cupboard's shoved so full that it just was time, right?
House could have settled. You know, shake.
Yeah. Or like you slam the door and the glasses will settle and stuff like that. But if something
thrown at you.
Yeah, if the door flies open and something comes flying out of it across the room, then that's not possible.
That's scary.
Glasses don't fly.
What? Yours don't have wings?
Okay, Death March.
I do kind of believe that one.
I feel like that one could be believable. I don't know if I believe it, but I feel like that one could be easily believable. And
especially
then
since another guy was having the problem too.
Yeah, exactly. And then what about the demon room with Tiberius? Is there such thing where like a certain room that has had trauma in it is doomed?
I would say so. Just because of a lot of like hotel kind of situations where a certain room things keep reoccurring. However, it also can be because people seek out that room and potentially seek out to cause more trauma. or it just happens that they seek out that room and it really is a freak accident. But I don't know.
I feel like in this one, people aren't seeking out the room, right? Like they have somebody that they're putting in this room. Maybe there's something with, like they said, that if there's a rapid response code or something like that, maybe it's the electrical in that room that is causing like a blip or something in your machines that you're hooked up to.
I want to know like how old your wiring is, or things like that.
Yeah.
Ghost from a Wes Anderson movie.
Do you like being scared?
Yes, I love it. Like my
scary
favorite
movies,
genre.
games, haunted houses.
Favorite genre of film and shows is horror or like psycho thriller kind of stuff. Love haunted houses, love scary mazes. I like scary games if I can play with people, because I don't like the idea of being in control of being chased. So like watching a movie, I like watching someone else be chased where I don't have to outrun a situation, which is why I don't go toward games usually where I have to run, because then it just gives me anxiety that I don't like.
Yeah.
But the others give me adrenaline that I do like. And then like even a lot of my alerts on stream are scary. They just yell in my ear. Things like that. I love being scared in a safe way. Like knowing that I'm safe. What about you?
Nope. When I was little, my dad would force me to go to haunted houses with my siblings and my family. And
force like you? Heck no. I'm gonna
junior high school kind of age. We went to one in Omaha when we weren't living here. But my step family was. So we drove down here and we're spending the weekend with them. And we went to one of them and we were standing in line and I just started getting anxiety, freaking out. And I was like, Dad, I'm really cold. I want to go get my jacket in the car. I took the keys and I locked myself in the car.
Oh, I don't blame you.
And my dad came back and yelled at me, and I got in super trouble because we already bought the tickets, and going into a haunted house isn't cheap, and all this kind of stuff, and why am I being a baby and everything. So I ended up having to go inside this haunted house, and there's certain parts that I remember vividly that show up in dreams now for me. Like if I have a scary dream, a lot of it comes from that haunted house. And that was the last haunted house I've ever been in. Let's see, it would be before my dad and my stepmom moved in together. So I was probably like in 8th grade. Last time I've ever been in a haunted house.
Did you go to the ones on the Queen Mary?
I didn't go that year. Ben was the only one that went to TwitchCon that year.
Gotcha.
But he didn't go on that either. And thankfully I found someone that does not like scary movies or scary things either. I like mind-bending, make you think type movies and stuff like that. But
like edge of your seat kind of things.
Yeah, or just ones at the end like that you're like, what just happened kind of thing. So I guess that would be psychological thrillers, but I don't like jump scares. I don't like, chopping people up and and stuff like that. Like I don't like any of that.
I also don't like that.
I just Ben one time in our first house, I was walking to the kitchen because he went to go get something and I wanted to go get something, and he thought it would be funny to stand around the corner in the dark and scare me and jump scare me. I was in a ball on the floor crying, having a panic attack for about 20 minutes.
I am such a scarer.
I
hide behind a corner and just scare, like Eric hates it.
We do it to Charlie sometimes, but not in never in a dark room. And it's always where I know he's going to be running past and I just like stand there and he runs past me, not realizing that I'm there kind of thing. But never scary movies. I didn't like them as a kid, but I had a babysitter that loved to watch them, and he would always just have me lay and play next to him with his friends while they are watching these scary movies, and he would just give me a blanket to cover my face. And so and when we watched Jurassic Park when I was little, I turned around and watched the upside down reflection in the projector on the back of the room because it was too scary for me. Like, I can't do scary at all. And maybe that's just why I don't believe in this kind of stuff, because it's more of like a coping mechanism. Like, if it's not real, then it can't scare me.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you at all. That's why, honestly, what was it? Second season of American Horror Story, Asylum. That one, I actually had to stop the show whenever they started getting to like the nun turning into a demon and things like that, because that hits home to me. And it scared me. I had to like sit there and pray that night, and I was just like, oh my gosh, because I don't ever want to welcome anything. I did end up finishing it, but that actually, so anything that has to do with demons literally scares me pantsless. So that's where I stand on that. But I love
it's just I don't know, I'm interested in American Horror Story. I love stuff about witches and like and witchcraft and stuff like that. Do I believe in it? No, not at all. So I don't know. I don't know if I have an answer for that.
Are you scared of clowns?
Yeah.
Is it because of things like it, or?
I feel uncomfortable with anybody dressed up in like character costumes.
What about like Disney and stuff?
I don't. Not a fan.
Really?
Mickey got a little too close to me when I went there in 3rd grade, and I pushed him away.
And here I am being Chuck E. Cheese.
I don't know if I just have this irrational fear of being put into a position that I can't control.
I don't think that's irrational at all.
So let's say, somebody in a character costume hurts me. I have no way of identifying them. I have no clue who's behind Mickey Mouse's head. I'm sure Disney does a great job vetting their people, but you can't, maybe I just don't trust. I'm fairly hard to get to trust somebody.
Mm-hmm.
So I am a huge skeptic on everything, and I think that goes with people. It goes with spirituality and supernatural things. It goes with diets and miracle hair grow stuff or whatever. Like, I'm a skeptic first.
There you go. I am opposite. I'm also somebody, so I used to be Chuck at Chuck E. Cheese, and I would be your worst nightmare.
Would you be like in everybody's faces and stuff?
I would scare my friends. Yeah, I'd scare my coworkers while I'm in Chuck. So I would hide around the corner, like wait for one of them to come around in the kitchen, because that's where nobody else, like customers, can't see you.
Yeah.
Or I would do this. I would do this thing where I'd like stand at the complete end of the hallway, like right outside our little warehouse. So it's like long and dark, and you would have to go back there, usually by yourself, to grab like more cups and things like that. And so I would wait for somebody to come down there, and then I'd start running at them and going, I'm gonna get you.
Man,
I'm horrible.
maybe is this us realizing we can't be friends?
I love scaring people so much. I
well,
would
now
love
you
to
know
work in like a haunted house.
I
won't scare you.
I have a mean right hook. So
the thing is, I do too. Like, if you scare me, you are in vicinity of me getting to punch you.
Yeah.
But I also welcome it. So like, Just know your side and my side. Oh my gosh. Stories are harder for you. I'll scare you later.
Gosh, no.
Oh my goodness.
You and Ben would get along so well because
you and Eric would get along well.
Hasn't that been the thing for a lot of this, that you and Ben are very similar and Eric and I are very similar?
But that's why we're compatible with our partners, because we're
and
opposites.
each other.
Yeah, and each other, because we're opposites. So we complement.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, every introverted friend needs an extroverted friend.
Yeah. But don't worry, I'll save people from scaring you. I'll be like, come at me. It was funny because at the Queen Mary that year at TwitchCon, they had, it was like 6 different haunted houses. And I was pregnant at the time with my last Sero baby. And you could visibly see that I was, a little bit pregnant, I was pretty pregnant. But I was walking through all the haunted houses. The only one that they legally wouldn't let me through was the clown one. I guess it was like the scariest and like flashing lights and stuff. And since I was pregnant, they were like, nah, whatever. But what was funny is I want to be scared when I go to a haunted house, but I would walk through and nobody would jump out at me. They would like just stand there because they can see I'm pregnant, and I'm like, you can scare me. One of the girls, she just kind of stood back, and I was like, I really like your makeup. I think it is nice and scary. And she goes, thank you. Congratulations. I was like,
well, I mean, they're probably told that anybody that is like older or little kids, they have to treat differently than they do adults.
But I'm just like, no, scare me. Let me scream.
Oh my gosh.
Nobody scared me. So I just had like a cool time looking at all the makeup and costumes.
So, not to relive the trauma of that last haunted house, but the things that scared me the most were, there was one section where the floor went at a 45-degree angle. And so...
What?
Yeah. So, and it was like a small walkway, and then there was a railway here. And so, and then, there's like this spooky graveyard type stuff on the other side of the railway. So, everybody's like trying to push themselves up against the wall so they don't lean over and fall over. Cause there was people down there trying to like jump up and grab you, and they would grab the edge of the walkway, never your feet, cause they're not allowed to touch you. Right.
Yeah, well, I mean, that could cause a lot of injury too.
Yeah. So everybody's like trying to lean the other way. But this is a black wall, or so you think.
Oh no.
There were little, like, windows, like screened window spots that as you're going like this, then you would feel like heat or cold on your face, and people would be whispering to you. And I was like, what the heck? And then sometimes they would just scary. Like, you would go by and then you'd get stuck and you're like right next to this screen. You don't realize it. And then they would just scream. And so then you get scared and you let go and you start to go this way. And here's all these people like trying to grab you. And then after that room, we went into this black and white circle room that like black and white checkered and strobe lights. And there was only one.
I can't do strobe lights.
One door that got you out. But the strobe lights made the doors look like they were jumping everywhere. So you wouldn't know, and there's like 15 people in this room trying to figure it out. The door had a timer on it. So once one person went through and it closed, then it was like a 10-second or so, whatever timer, before you could get into it again. So even if you thought you found the door, you might not be able to get into it. So you would go to a different door. Oh, and behind some of the doors, you would be like, yeah, I got one. And then it would just take you right back into the room. And some of them were just people standing behind the door scaring you.
No.
And so you would try to quickly close the door as fast as you possibly could. Then there's 2 more sections that like these are things that are in my scary nightmare dreams from this one haunted house. There was a 2-story slide.
Thanks, Dad.
Yeah, there's a 2-story slide in the middle that you had to go down. And I was like, great, this is gonna be fun. It's a 2-story slide and it's black light lit with all these cool things everywhere, whatever. And it was all enclosed until like the ceiling of the main floor, and then it was opened up and you're in like a half shell kind of thing. there were people reaching up the tube at you as you were coming down. You can't stop because you're going down a 2-story slide. And there would be people like climbing on the bottom of the slide. And as soon as you get down off to the slide, you land in this little foam pit, so you can't get up right away. And there's all these people like trying to, the creepy crawl towards you. And the last thing was there was one section where there's everybody in this like creepy graveyard thing or whatever, and they would take shovels and scrape shovels along the cement, like in between everybody walking, trying to get your feet. Again, obviously they're legally not allowed to touch you, but they would try to almost like scoop you up with these shovels, and just the sound of metal against the cement, just like, I hated it so much. You would lean up against the wall, and the damn screens on the wall over here were here again.
They're gonna get you.
I went around the corner, I see the lights from the parking lot, and I start to run because I'm like, I'm over this. I push past my stepbrother and my stepsister and my dad. My stepmom was behind me. I push past them and I run past. But then there's this one little last section where there's this guy, when he leans forward on this like bungee, like jail bars, he can lean really far out to the point where he's probably like 6 inches from me. And I don't realize it because I just see the exit. And all of a sudden, all these lights and loud sounds and strobes and all that kind of stuff go off, and like the shrill killer clown laugh. And this guy is just like flying towards me. And I got out, and I just remember finding a curb and just bawling. Oh,
I don't blame you.
There you go. Does that sound fun? Because that sounds like the worst night ever.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, it actually sounds fun to me. However, so
if you like haunted houses, apparently come to Omaha, because we have a lot of really good ones.
My heart stopped though. Have you heard of Mckamey Manor?
Mm-mm.
Oh my gosh. So Mckamey Manor, which also, if you're going to look it up or watch any videos, heavy trigger content warning. So Mckamey Manor is basically known, well, first off, for their 40-page contract with like extreme details in it. They can physically touch you, they can hurt you, they can literally rip fingernails out, they can cut your hair, like shave it until you're bald. Like, this is actual horror. For people who want to experience it, but then like in the end still be able to like get out. And if you, I guess, go through it, you can win $20,000. But a lot of people tap out because it's literal torture that they're putting you through. And there's been like a lot of legal stuff come up about it, but their contract is so thorough that it's like you can't do anything.
There's a Netflix episode or something about them too.
There's a lot about them because people, of course, think that this should absolutely be illegal. But if people are signing contracts and are okay with literally what they tell you, like, we have the opportunity to do this to you. Like, if you're somebody who says, no, don't cut my hair, they're going to cut your hair. Somebody, like, a lot of people get super injured. They break things. It's intense. Like, that's my hard stop. I don't want to be hurt. In a haunted house, you can touch me. I don't want to be touched, but if it's a part of the like experience, I get it. That's fine. Just a little touch or like a, ugh. But if you coming at me and like cutting up my hair and physically hurting me and like beating me down and things like that, absolutely not. You say that you do it for $20,000, but once you get in there, if you watch videos, it's intense.
Basic requirements to just be considered. 21 and above, or 18 to 20 with parents' approval. Ooh, what parent's gonna let you do that? Completed sports, physical, and doctor's letters stating you are physically and mentally cleared. Mm-hmm. You have to pass a background check. You have to be screened via FaceTime or on the phone. Proof of medical insurance, signed, detailed 40-page waiver, and pass a portable drug test on the day of the show.
No, it's not a guaranteed $20,000. There's not a guarantee you're gonna make it through that.
All right, I have to look more into this.
It's constant torture. Like, there's no let up. They'll like waterboard you and put you, like, if you're claustrophobic, you're going in a tight space. If you tell them your fear, they're going to give you your fear. So, like, I'm pretty sure they'd surround me with a bunch of spiders and I would physically, like, die.
Okay, it's called Dark Tourist. I'm watching.
Yeah, you can definitely get PTSD from that. I don't think that that's worth 20K. I don't think that's worth anything, because that's your psyche that you've got to then live with. There's one woman who's come back several times to do this. And I'm just like, why? Let alone go through it once, but more than once. Why would you want to do that? Are you watching it?
I'm reading the warning page. Okay? Warning page. Be warned, Mckamey Manor is not your standard haunted house. This is an audience participation event in which you will live your own horror movie. This is a rough, intense, and truly frightening experience. You must be in great health, capital letters, to participate. Last year's haunt was absolutely nothing compared to the new Mckamey Manor. Before I go on, have they checked the person that is creating this to make sure that they are sane?
So there's a lot of stuff behind him. There's a lot of documentaries and things on YouTube that you can definitely go at.
Oh, I'm finding it. This is my
I
Halloween
think he's insane. Stuff. But he comes across, of course, as a sane person.
Yeah.
And it's just like...
Okay, so this 2020 was called Descent. They haven't posted anything for 2021 yet. Understand that each tour will be different based upon your personal fears and can last up to 6 hours. Each guest will be mentally and physically challenged until you reach your personal breaking point. Do not wear expensive clothing. Do not bring anything that cannot get wet. This can be an aggressive experience, and our actors will come in contact with you. You cannot in any way return the contact. If anyone becomes rowdy, pushing, shoving, running, they will immediately be removed, no questions asked. Anyone that has been drinking alcohol or taking drugs will not be allowed. At check-in, you'll be required to show ID. The waiver process for Descent will last 2 hours. 1 performance only per week. Specific requirements must be met in order to ever take the tour. Oh.
Yeah, they like yell in your face. So I watched the beginning of one of these, and they yell in your face about your waiver. Just to make sure that you want to do this, and they'll be like, you don't want to do this, do you want to do this, kind of thing, and they're already like physically hurting you. Like, they'll grab your hair and things like that, and you have to like agree to it. And then there's usually like a safe word or thing to get out, but there were a few people who would say their safe word and they told them no. Like, there's a lot that's going on with this. I think 2021's not a thing right now because a lot of this was coming out last year.
Oh my gosh, there's a picture of 4 people gagged, tied with blood all over them.
Yeah, it's bad. They're physically hurting you. It's torture. And people sign up for this.
Oh.
Also, I'm surprised it says 6 hours. It used to be 24 hours. Yeah, I could talk about Mckamey Manor forever. There's a lot of stuff if y'all want to look into it, but it is... Now that is horror to me. That is a no. Hard no.
God,
I don't want to be
sick
hurt.
now.
I just want adrenaline with a little like boom.
What's my heart rate right now?
Yeah, no. Look at your own risk.
I'm just gonna take some more CBD real quick.
There you go. Yeah. I wouldn't be able to do it anyway if I wanted to, just because of my heart condition. Oh no, darn, I have an issue. I could never do that. That sucks.
I can never do that because I'm not an idiot.
Oh my gosh. And then after they're done, there's like videos of them just kind of hanging out in like a trailer with all the cast and like the people that just went through it. And they're just like, yeah, you know, it was really fun and stuff like that. And they're making it lighthearted. And I'm sitting here thinking,
how many people have ever made it?
So many issues. I don't know. I don't know if they still do the money thing, because I think that now it's such a big hit that people just want to literally go through their own horror story. But I don't know if anybody's actually made the money, because like I said, I'm pretty sure they used to do 24 hours, and you're not like allowed to sleep or anything. It's constant.
Yeah.
Like, because they're trying their best to break you. Yeah.
Weird. All right, you know I'm going to go into a deep dive in this day.
Be careful though. Take care of yourself.
Oh well, I will. That's why I watch during the day.
There you go.
All right. Well, interesting. I think this is more terrifying than any of the ghost stories that we watched or read. What other scary stuff does everyone want to see this month? I think we should go through the different types of witches. Talk about witches.
I want to do a like a time where we talk about like true crime.
Mm-hmm.
And stuff like that.
Okay. So how many weeks are there in?
4, I think.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks.
5. So we got 4 more.
So we have 4 more. So we're gonna do one about witches, and like we can do witch trials, and then also go through like the different types, like a kitchen witch and a green witch and all that kind of stuff. Talk about that. True crime. We'll have to think of 2 more.
Yeah. We'll think on it. Unless y'all have ideas, then make sure to tell us or tweet us or anything like that.
Yeah, if you tweet at us and tell us what any other ideas for, not necessarily super scary, but just like I just like deep diving into this kind of stuff. But yeah, we could definitely do multiple episodes on true crime.
Absolutely. There's so much to talk about.
I think we should totally find like we should do a documentary one. Like, cause in the last year, there's been so many documentaries that have come out about like true crime and unsolved mysteries, like the Cecil Hotel one and stuff like that. I think we should find
on Hulu that's really good too about a man.
We should do like a one about serial killers, because I find serial killers fascinating.
Yes.
Okay.
Same.
Any guests planned this month? People who love spooky stuff. Yeah, I think for this one we just wanted to kind of just sit and chill and chat. But
if we find somebody that absolutely we're like, yeah, would be good for that, we'll let y'all know. But
I mean, Cray. Cheney, this is Cheney's life.
That is true.
So, or Jess Blevins loves spooky stuff. Like Dead by Daylight is her favorite thing, and she loves scary movies and all that kind of stuff. So we'll
Mika
see. We'll see.
Well. Like her name's literally R.I.P. Mika.
True. Yeah. So I think I don't think there's a requirement for guests for this month, but if we find somebody that kind of goes along with what we're talking about, we'll
let y'all know.
So have a great day, guys. Guys, next week.
Have fun looking at Mckamey Manor.